Dan WOOTON. I know watchers of this channel would have expected his name to come up today. I know that. But could old Dan, Scoff's fiercest critic, even more fierce than old Aylman Holmes, if you'd ask me. Not quite as fierce as Kim Woodburn, I suppose. So, second most famous critic. Could old Dan end up being the new Scoff? It's looking like it could happen. Massive revelations yesterday, and it didn't look good for old Dan for a moment, but I'll tell you what I'm going to say now, and it's not a lot. And the reason is I need to know more. I listened to it on the ITV late night news last night, and I seen Dan's piece on GB News, 6 minutes long, on YouTube, where he spoke to his public, all very eloquently. And I need to know a little bit more. The old "there's no smoke without fire" I think rung true for me, so I was concerned for him. I don't know how much of a naughty boy he's been, but he's hinted that he has been a bit naughty in the past, but he's saying the latest things he's been accused of he hasn't done, and they're with his solicitor. Well, that may or may not be the case, I don't yet know. But I thought it was strange for a couple of reasons, the whole thing. Firstly, the ITV, when they did a bit on him, they didn't go too deep, but they mentioned a critic of ITV. They didn't mention anything to do with Schofield. You would have thought they'd have mentioned that WOOTON was all over the Schofield story. They didn't mention it at all, like they didn't want to bring their own dirty washing back into the public domain. They didn't do a long piece on him. They actually mentioned it's with the police and with lawyers, so I think they was afraid of libel on their part. Although I'm sure they don't like the fella and the news channel he comes from with all that they did over the Schofield fiasco. Then I tuned into Dan himself and had a look at the 6 minutes of what he had to say. And what I found strange was, yeah, he said he's done something wrong in the past. He didn't address any of them. He said he can't talk about the issues now because it's with his lawyers. I half get that. But if he's done 6 minutes talking about it, I can't understand how he didn't. But the big thing I got from it all was he was doing this, they're after us, they're after GB News, everybody's after us because we're so successful. Maybe there's something in that. But I thought to myself, GB News have put him back front and centre last night and let him appear. They may well let him appear tonight. They might let him appear throughout the whole thing until it goes to trial or to courts, assuming it gets that far. But he kept pushing the narrative. They're all against us here at GB News. They're trying to bring us down, but we're staying strong. I got the impression that was a message from himself to sort of say that none of it's true. They're after us, but GB are backing me up, and I'm glad they're backing me up, and I want them to back me up, and we're all in it together. He was trying to go us, GB, against them, the media. And I think he wanted to do it along the lines of, it would look bad for GB now further down the line after all he said about them and about how it's them against everybody else. I think he's trying to put GB News into a corner so as they don't sack him or stand him down. Now, I might have been wrong about that, but that's the impression I got. I thought, do his bosses at GB want him to use the narrative that it's everybody against that channel? Because when all's said and done, it's supposedly accusations against him and him alone. And as I say, we don't know whether there's any truth in the accusations or not. He says there's not, but he's not mentioning the accusations. So I thought it was a bit strange. And then I know today that he's had a big spat on Twitter with Carol Vorderman. She's doing the old "what goes around comes around." So she's firmly not in his camp. She seems pretty pleased that he's garnering all this media attention. Just like he was pretty pleased when Schofield was garnering it all, I've got to say. But then again, it's strange because I say the Vorderman thing, I've never disliked her particularly. I like the fact that she has things to say as well and isn't afraid to say them. But I did read a piece at the weekend for enough. I'll just put the bins on while I read you some. Johnny Mercer, I believe, is a Conservative MP. Like I said, I don't follow any parties. It just shows that I don't, because I didn't even know who he was. He's an MP there. And his missus, Felicity Mercer, did a piece in the paper at the weekend saying that Vorderman's really got it in for them. And she's been damning on Twitter about her husband, Johnny, and that Johnny is a really good person, a genuine person, somebody that you can hang your hat on and is great, but because of many tweets that old Carol has done, he's giving the family an absolute dog's life. They're having nightmares with people on Twitter and all different platforms saying and doing awful things against them. They've even had a jiffy bag of poo sent in the post. I'm not so sure she's saying that's on the back of Carol, but they're having nightmares, they're saying, and she's saying that Carol's got that many followers and that many ardent followers that want to sort of follow her and believe in her and act on her say-so. They're having massive trouble with Carol, and I don't know what. So I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to say a lot more about Dan WOOTON until I read more into it and see more of what's said and read more about Carol and her actions on Twitter at the moment. But I'm not so sure she isn't using that platform to stir up a lot of trouble for people where possibly, I'm not saying definitely, possibly they may not deserve it. But as I say, the Dan WOOTON thing last night, I thought it was strange. He said nothing, or said a load but said nothing, yet he's really trying to think of the narrative as it's them against GB, like he wants GB to stand strong with him, as in by his side, as in keep putting him on the TV. I might be wrong about that. We might turn the TVs on tonight and he's not there anymore. He might not be on the rest of the week, he might not be on next week. I mean, I won't be turning on because I don't watch GB News. I just watch these little snippets that they have on YouTube. But I'll follow it with interest. Let's see what's what. But I hope Dan hasn't done too much too bad, because if he has, he's been very critical towards old PHILIP SCHOFIELD, hasn't he? You know, let's just hope it's not as bad for him as it was for Schof, because we don't want to need that, do we really? Anyway, that's it for now. I've not said a lot because I don't know a lot, but as I do, you can rest assured I will be commenting. It's just what I do.